pinning 4 from Battle for Dream Island, otherwise known as BFDI, against Baldi from the famous indie game, Baldi's Basics.
And I'm going to justify why Baldi slaps up the entire verse negative difficulty.
No he doesn't. Like, I know, I'm the #1 Baldi glazer, Baldi fanboy, that's just how it is and how it will always be. But, he's not winning. So yeah, let me debunk this, get the music going. Alright, now as much as I'd like to put his thing on the screen that I'm gonna debunk, so you can just see it, especially since EDP is on the screen the whole time,
The EDP thing alongside my yapping was probably the best part of my entire video that I ever rewatched, ever. Here's the original image, it's too peak.
I'm not gonna do that because it would take too long. So I'm just gonna give you the TLDR. He pretty much says that because Baldi can corrupt and crash the game, that makes him complex multiversal and also gives him immeasurable speed, which is wrong. Now, I'm just gonna be straight up. Baldi is not corrupting or crashing the game or whatever. He does not have those powers, at least as far as we know. And here's why. Now, starting off with the first example given being the Null secret death screen or whatever, this obviously isn't Baldi's doing. He's just kind of there crying, you know?
I will say one problem about my original video is that I did buy this feat as implied. However, in reality, I don't really use this feat that much. I just use the other scans that they presented. I only really didn't debunk it because I already bought the argument of Baldi having corruption feats in the first place. I should have probably specified that. Though I likely bought it at the time and didn't actually realize, so thanks for that.
That's really it. This is clearly just because Null is escaping the game. And yes, I said escaping, that's a topic for another day.
One sort of lore thing I want to add here to people who just want to watch my video and actually understand some more about the feat. Pretty much, Null is basically corrupting Baldi and the game to act a lot more aggressive and act a lot more violent towards the player when, in reality, he only wants to play hide and seek and show you his inventions and stuff. It obviously isn't as brief as that, as there is a lot more to it, but basically once Null dies, Baldi basically just returns as a normal teacher. He isn't really that aggressive, which has been a giant misconception. He's only been aggressive once Null is in the deal. And Null is basically corrupting him and all that. I just want to put this here because, yeah. I might have got some things wrong or left some things out, but I mainly don't want to add too much to this as I want to get more into the video.
But more importantly is the current ending for Baldi's Basics Plus, because I have a lot more to say about that one. So you know how it goes, like Baldi sings and then the game goes all like crazy and stuff. Now, there's a lot of evidence to suggest this isn't Baldi. Starting off, I'm just gonna get the whole game crashing thing out of the way. That's just a game mechanic as far as we know. The only game crashing that we have 100% confirmation isn't just a game mechanic is from Null, thanks to this statement. And also, as you can see from the clip, Baldi himself gets corrupted, while the whole school gets corrupted. And we've seen characters like Null corrupt things before. However, whenever he does it, he himself doesn't get corrupted. The only time we ever see people get corrupted is whenever someone else is corrupting them, they get hurt, or whenever they're escaping the game. So it makes no sense for Baldi himself to get corrupted while he's doing the corruption. And even if you want to argue he is doing it, thanks to this whole thing in the dev book, BB Plus isn't even canon to Classic Remastered, so this wouldn't be 1C because he wouldn't even be destroying the dev room. Not to mention destroying the dev room might not even be 1C because of Null's stated traveling abilities conflicting with him being there, and the fact that he states everything in the book is a lie.
Firstly, I just want to say that I actually have nothing to counter for this argument, genuinely. Only one of the things you can say is that it's in context with it being a side story. However, good luck trying to prove that it is a side story, as there's literally no evidence for it whatsoever. So is this it? Have I finally lost a power scaling topic? Well, not quite. For viewers out there, what I'm going to do in this situation is now scaling both versions of Baldi to 6th dimensional, which just to make it completely objective that Baldi would be 1C. However, before I get into that, there's one thing I have to address first, that being the Null statement. If you have a scan for that, since I forgot the timestamp or where it's from, as the last time I scaled Null or played Baldi's Basics games was a while back and my video carried from its scaling, so it would have been great if you presented the scan, to which you didn't, so I would say this is a Hitchens razor. However, despite this, I'm still going to counter the argument. The Null statement kind of shoots yourself in the foot a little, as it backs up my argument about the canon stuff with the books statements being a lie. Then it cannot be used. However, you could still say that it's transcendence from earlier, which I blatantly shown in the video, and we likely conceded to, and there was no refutation to it being transcendence. So without further ado, let's get into what I have to rebunk for y'all out there watching, and justify Baldi being complex multiversal. What I'm going to be doing now is taking both versions of Baldi and making them complex multiversals, so whatever you interpret the canon Baldi as will no matter what be complex multiversal, even if it's non-canon. So let's get into that. I'll first go over Baldi's Basics Plus as the easiest one right now, and I don't have to show scans. You're dismissing the feat as a game mechanic when literally nothing justifies it. We know the corruption is coming from Baldi because you implied you conceded that was possible for him, but as a game mechanic. And Occam's Razor, which I'm not going to use right now because it's pointless. You tried making the argument that because he himself got corrupted, then that now means and entails that he can't corrupt other people and things. However, that's not only falls under a non sequitur, your premise doesn't follow your conclusion. And just because I corrupted a reality and I got affected, in quotes by the way, because he can tank this, doesn't now mean that I can't corrupt people. That literally makes no sense whatsoever. But it's literally shown on screen that the game as a whole got corrupted. So it's blatantly consistent that Baldi can corrupt things. And we can use deductive reasoning to assert that it's an imperfected or weaker version of Null's who can casually corrupt all of reality. Going back to the game mechanic, what is a game mechanic? A game mechanic by definition refers to the abilities shown in games that are determined by the rules of the game. Examples include things like hit points, levels, statistics, wood map crossing in seconds outside of cinematics, etc. And are not necessarily indicative of characters or entity's actual abilities. For something to be a game mechanic, it would have to be something like this. Mario, for example, gets no diff by Goombas, but he displays feats where he can one-shot a Goomba, contradicting it, and therefore it's a game mechanic, and vice versa. For this to be a game mechanic, there would have to be a contradiction to Baldi using the corruption feat, which to my knowledge, non-existent Baldi's Basics. So if no contradiction exists, Baldi has this feat, and if he has this feat, he scales to 6D via the cosmology. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get to Classic Remastered. Within Baldi's Basics Classic Remastered, we know Baldi 100% scales to the player via being capable of killing them. We can likely deduce that it's max power because of Null. He doesn't really want to kill the player, but Null's corruption makes him do so. And speaking of Null, the player can exist alongside Null in the developer's room, where he'd have a higher dimensional existence or a 6D existence. Not to mention, the player can scale to the corruptions via tagging them with the Baldoons, making this consistent. So with that in mind, Baldi scales to a player who can have a 6D existence. You can even argue Baldi does a similar corruption feat when he kills you. However, I wouldn't personally use it, but he's still 6D without it. So with that in mind, we have both Baldi's Basics Classic Remastered and Baldi's Basics Plus at both 6D, so I don't have to justify any more in this video. So yeah, this is basically the end of the video, and about some of the stuff in the comment section about the whole doxing situation, I'm personally not really minding right now. I mean, this is mainly just something to get my mind off the whole situation. Also, I have a couple people making multiple exposed fucking shits on the people who dox me, which is insane, especially if you see what they're being exposed for. Like, there's some really messed up topics in that I'm happy they're even being exposed for, because the fact they're even on the internet in the first place is genuinely shocking, and the fact they get sympathy from their entire audience whilst I have to pretty much be here getting doxed and almost swatted is just fucking diabolical. I wouldn't really worry too much about it though. I'm mainly just sort of recovering from it. I mean, I'm trying to really avoid the whole thing. That's what I'm really doing. So anyways, see ya in the next video, next edit, next whatever, sub, whatever, do what you want. I don't even know what to put for the ending. Please help me. I'm trapped in a basement.